Morning, John. Morning, Sally. Hi. Good morning, commissioners. Well, I'll say it again when we get live. Morning, John. Good morning, commissioners. I'd like to call this Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners meeting of Tuesday, April 6, 2021 to order. With that, there is a quorum present with all 5 commissioners, and I would ask that everyone stand and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, commissioners, and good morning again. With that, we'll move right into our agenda, and the first thing up is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, looking over the agenda, is there anything that you'd like to amend the agenda with? Hearing nothing, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tolman. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioners, next agenda item is approval of the minutes. We do have 3 sets, and we'll do them each individually. So approval of the March 16th, 2021 regular meeting. Commissioner, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
I'd so move that we accept the approval of the March 3rd, March 16, 2021 regular meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the March 16th, 2021 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shanefield. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the March 16th, 2021 Strategic Planning Workshop minutes. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
I'd move that we approve the March 16, 2021 Strategic Planning Workshop minutes.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lloyd to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I can second.
Second by Commissioner Tolman. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our next order is approving the minutes from the March 24th, 2021 special meeting, which addressed ambulance service. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Smith.
I move that we approve the March 24th special meeting minutes as presented.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shanefield. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next order of business is the acceptance of the bills, the ELs, the bonds, the rebates, and hospital maintenance expenditures. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I can move to do that. Tolman.
We have a motion to approve the acceptance of the bills by Commissioner Tolman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shanefield. Any further discussion, commissioners? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next order of business is county resident concerns. County residents concern. I'll open the floor up and we will watch for any emails or anybody in the audience. County residents concerns. Huh? Yes. Really? Who they want to invite him in?
Yeah. It's got a concern. It's cold
Yeah,
outside.
cold outside. We got Mother Nature out there watching us, a robin in the last window. Been there since the meeting started. Any? Give it just another 30 seconds or so. Any? With no county resident concerns, I'll close this part of the agenda. Next up is commissioner comments and reports, and up first is Commissioner Tolman. Good morning and welcome.
Okay,
floor
the
is
rest of
yours.
you won't have any time because I'm going to take up all the time. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Right ahead.
I did give you some time from the county resident concerns, so there's extra
Oh,
time
thank
there.
you,
You're so
Commissioner.
welcome.
Yes. Well, I have been contacting my budget liaison, Commissioner Lloyd, and I won't steal all of his thunder. We did meet with the Conservation District on their budget, and I was very impressed with Commissioner Lloyd is getting right up to speed. I can't even say anything.
Thank
So,
you.
great job. Thank
Thank you
you.
for all your time, Mary.
Yes, thanks. That used to be my, my area, so I've been watching him, but he's doing very, very well. He defended them better than I could have. So I just have to say that.
Well, if I may, you did a pretty good job, so.
Well, thank you. You were the
all those years,
liaison. Oh,
You did a good job. You had a crew you had to keep corralled, so, but good job, Commissioner
well, it was
Tolman.
sort of like herding cats, sort of like this one too, you know. All right, let's get serious here. Oh, we did ask for comments. Bonnie Berry asked for comments on the budget sheet, and we got one back from the Conservation District. Please make it so that it automatically adds. If you change one number, the whole form will change. So that was, they appreciated that very much. So thank you, Bonnie. We're very thankful to have that change put on that budget form. I will meet with YWCA on their budget, and I've got meetings scheduled for the other budget meetings. I had a great tour with Irene Richardson at the hospital last week with Robbie DeLure, one of the candidates for the hospital board. We got to learn the insides and the outside of the hospital, which was very educational and much appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Richardson. I met with Kayla McDonald to try to figure out what she does with the economic development, and that was very enlightening also. So thank you, Kayla. Appreciated that. The joint meeting with the cities and counties on purchasing met yesterday morning, and Marty Durnovich has done an awesome job of trying to summarize all of the, just dealing with janitorial supplies was selected as an area that might be a common area, but every janitor has his own preference for the cleaners. So we're down to 4 items. They're going to go out to bid on 4 items like toilet paper, Kleenex, and rubber gloves and something else. Anyway, so they're gonna try to save some money with those 4 items with between the cities and the county. I'm airport liaison. That one has had Devin very busy dealing with the legislature, and the legislature did not approve Senate File 00004, the airport district. So we were sort of sad about that because it would have given us another option at some point to go for a district. So maybe we can try again next year, but Devin did an awesome job of setting all of that out, setting all of that up and rallying with the legislators and getting all of us inspired to also be communicating with them. This week, we're doing Zoom meetings with Devin and each of the SLIB board members, State Land Investment Board, your governor, assessor, state superintendent, secretary, there are 5 of them, to try to get final approval for the $3 million Wyoming Business Council grant. And thanks, Christina. I think you helped with that one too. You didn't help with that one. Oh, amazing. I didn't know that you missed any. We meet with the federal agencies tomorrow morning. We do that once a month. We will have our federal agency update on April 21st at our next meeting at 10:30. I did have some other counties that want to know if they could be invited to listen in on Zoom or come to our meeting, Rich County, Utah, Uinta County, Utah, and Daggett County. Can we extend a Zoom to them?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Make sure we have their
Contact?
contact information. And Sally, does that go to whom? To you? All right. please.
Okay, all
We
right,
would welcome them if they would
Okay.
like to, and if they come in person, we'll welcome as well.
okay. The Pacific Atlantic Trona, Eric has been covering that, Eric Bingham, and thank you for that. They're working on alternatives development, so they've been having meetings on that. And Eric and Jean Legursky have also been providing comments relative to our zoning rules and requirements on roads and the railroad track. So that is appreciated. Last March 25th and 26th, last Thursday, Friday, I attended a 3-state meeting called Energy Strong in Vernal, Utah. And it was a powerful meeting. There were 60 commissioners from Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming there. And I'll tell you, they are fired up and upset what is happening with the executive orders and the moratoriums. So I reached out to De Leon and Aaron Mosby, and Aaron Mosby, our county attorney, did say he would be happy to visit with the commissioners if there are opportunities for him to be able to file on 3 lawsuits that the governor has been involved in and the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. They've challenged Biden's federal oil lease ban. The governor has also launched a lawsuit challenging the moratoriums on the lease bans. There's a Wyoming joined a multi-state lawsuit blocking Biden's Keystone Pipeline ban. They're all actions that are affecting Wyoming's minerals and our revenue. Our revenue is so tied to our minerals, and we have got to fight. We have got to rally up. I talked to Senator Lummis's office. She did write, along with our congressional delegation, on March 16th, she did write a letter along with the others, some other states, challenging the 30 by 30 initiative and indicating how much it was going to hurt Wyoming and our western states that are so energy and mineral dependent. 30 by 30 is a big push by this administration, and that's another one that would not be good for Wyoming. They're proposing to put 30% of the land into preservation. That means not conservation easements, absolute preservation, where the landowner could put it into preservation, but they would have no control over what's happening with the land. So it would be another federal takeover of land. Actually, 30 by 30 is by 2030. Then they will shoot for 50% of all of the land in the country to be locked up and put into preservation. So Wyoming already has, Sweetwater County has 70% in federal land right now. So we came out of that meeting with some strategies, and we will continue to communicate and support and help each other. And Cynthia Lummis did say, can you please try to get more support out of Colorado, because the western side of Colorado has several coalitions, and they were very concerned with what's happening because eastern Colorado has a different perspective on the world than the western part. And so we're just trying to rally our efforts to sign on to amicus briefs as intervener in any of these actions taken on by the governor. So I think maybe we need to have a meeting, maybe at our next meeting, if it's not too late. Mr. De Leon, maybe you could help us. What are some options we have as a county to put forward some resolutions stating what we believe about the 30-30, about the moratorium on oil and gas, and maybe have an update and see if the county attorney would be willing to file as an intervener along with the governor in the lawsuits that the governor has filed on as a show of support. There were step 2 of the strategy from the Vernal Energy Strong meeting was to do more education and outreach, to try to reach out to our friends and family and people and other commissioners and other elected officials to try to inform them of the value and the need for our oil and gas. And they had some videos. I'll try to get some. They were kind of funny. One of them wasn't a video. It was a true story. Texas firm had ordered some jackets for their employees, and they were denied by this Colorado company because they said, you're not a green company. We don't believe in supporting oil and gas, and we're not going to make these jackets for you. So the Colorado group decided, well, they'll just do a positive spin on this. So they made a special award and gave them to them for being such a wonderful supporter of petroleum products, which is what they make their jackets out of, polyester. And some of the other funny videos were, just look around the room, how many of the products everywhere and every day are produced by oil and gas. And if you don't believe that what's happening is important, look what has happened to the price of gas in 1 month. It's jumped $1. So we need to just spread the word so people start to understand how important it is, not just to our county revenue, but to our entire way of life. So county power, Utah has a state federalism commission that deals with all these federal issues. They have a state, actually have a commission. It could be like our energy with Mr. Luthi, sort of like that, perhaps. No one was there from the governor's office, but they did send a private consultant. So that was good. So Energy Strong, our next meeting focuses on federal issues, and so I'm hoping we can pull together some things to help indicate our preferences in protecting our tax base because of our minerals. I was on the COVID relief bill, the restructuring bill, and hopefully we will be able to benefit with some projects through that. There is a Zoom meeting on wildlife crossings on April 28th and 29th, and so I will try to listen in on that one also. I know the wildlife crossings are very expensive, and with the cuts in budget, but we still wanted to have an update. They had a conference several years ago, and so we want to have an update and see where are some opportunities to put in some of the crossings. So that is my report, and this is my quote for the day. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples, and we all need to join together to make some ripples, to make a difference, because there are others who are rippling the other way. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Commissioner Toman? I've got a couple for you. With the 30/30 and all the stuff that's coming with Biden's executive orders, I know where's CLG going? Has any of this been presented at CLG? So it becomes as a unified 3-4 county type move?
Yes, I failed to mention that. The Coalition of Local Governments did have, most of our members were at that meeting.
Good.
And Connie Brooks, our legal counsel, she was at the meeting, and she did give us a 2-page strategy sheet, which was pretty much in line with what the group had adopted.
Will
as
she
well.
be doing any resolutions for the Coalition of Local Governments? No?
I'm not sure that we'll actually do a resolution, because I think it's more powerful becoming individually, but I can
Okay.
visit with her. And I do have a format for some resolutions from the American Stewards of Liberty is a website that has been reaching out regarding.
Okay,
30.
and then on the individuality part of it, I think you're a member of the WCCA Public Lands Committee, are you not? I think you're
asked
on
to
that
be,
committee.
Yeah.
I
don't
thought
know.
I saw your name on it when I was
Okay.
reviewing the committee, so that might be another venue to follow through, because that has a great number, and also it would involve WCCA, which would be a huge across the state supporting as well if you get an opportunity. The reason I throw that out is we know, I don't know if it'll be too late or not, but in May, Sweetwater County will be hosting the WCCA Spring Conference here in Rock Springs. And I do know those committees will get together over those 2 days, I believe.
Mhm.
Might provide an opportunity for you to also.
Well,
in
I
that
have been
area.
emailing Jeremiah, asking him if he could make sure we had a special update on the moratorium, the oil and gas moratorium and the 30/30. And he said they're working on it now.
Good,
So
good. So yeah, I was just trying to spread it
Thank
more and
you.
more further to help out. So it becomes a multitude of individuals and that type of thing in those two venues. But good report. Thank you for that information.
you.
Thanks for the handout on 30/30. I hadn't seen it till now, so that's very helpful. Any other questions for Commissioner Toman? Commissioners? Okay, up next is myself. With mine, I would like to, first of all, comment that the abandoned vehicle lot that was out at Auto Recyclers is cleaned up. We were out of there by the 1st April. That was made possible with the assistance of our county attorney's office, primarily our assistant county attorney, John De Leon, as well as we had a lot of assistance from Gene Legursky and his people out of Public Works, and also a real big push out of the sheriff's office. Sheriff Grossnickel facilitated that based on our decision as a board to put him in that position to make things happen. And he did get other individuals, salvage people involved, where on that last day of the month or day before the last day of the month, they had wreckers in there hauling campers out. They did haul the campers and stuff out to the landfill. And at the same time, the maintenance people from the county were out there removing fluids, which had to be done. Of course, the one stuff was the refrigerate and coolant has to wait because that'll have to be a special work. But anyhow, to share with you, commissioners, as of now, the abandoned vehicle yard is no longer at Auto Recyclers east of town. We will now program will now be facilitated by the sheriff and that. But I want to thank everybody who assisted it. I also want to thank Mr. Liggett at Auto Recyclers, he and his entire family who have had oversight for this for so many years of the auto cycling program, and appreciate the work that they did over the years. And also really appreciate the fact that John and his family, Mr. Liggett and his family, how well they worked with us to get that lot emptied out and cleaned out. So commissioners, that is a chapter in Sweetwater County's life that we can close the door on from the standpoint of relocating. And I'd like to thank commissioners for all that work. Also, any questions on the abandoned vehicle out? I know. So, all right, very good. Also, next up is for our next meeting, I'll request an agenda item. Communities Protecting the Green will meet the third Monday. It'll be Zoom. And over the last, I'm going to say 18 months prior to COVID, there's been a lot of work done over the last 2.5 years looking at the community protecting the green and investigating the water situations and that. Originally, if you look at the cooperative agreement back in 2009, when it was put together, basically that communities put the green was protecting the green was put together to be ready to stand up if there was any diversion of water out of the Green River to they were authorized to have at their will the opportunity or the power, I guess you could say, to do an injunction against anybody who would divert water. So they basically, from the town of Rock Springs, Green River, and the county, had I will say several $1,000s available that committee could just snap of a finger. If there was a diversion, they could file an injunction. And of course, that's the original intent. Several years, 2-3 years ago, the committee started working and looking at what the mission and purpose of the green was, protecting the green, and started investigating, is it in our best interest to do that? Is that money well spent, or, should we even do that? For example, the two projects, there's a third one, I can't remember it, but 2 projects in Sweetwater County, which is the riff rafting of Fontanelle, as well as the raising the height of the dam at Big Sandy. Those are 2, there's a third one. But anyhow, if those 2 projects, once permitting is granted, there are conservation groups, private conservation groups with big money who are standing in line to file injunctions. And it was our feeling that rather than spend taxpayers' monies and make lawyers rich, we would just let them file the stuff and we would find better ways to deal with it. Over the years, we've involved the Joint Waters Board, and we have that membership. We've had attorneys that have spent time looking at water. Plus, we've had a consultant who now, I still believe, since his retirement with the state of Wyoming, is working with the Joint Waters Board working very carefully with the group and talking about what's the best way to make sure Wyoming water is taken care of. And of course, that's is not with filing injunction. It's more, use the 4% that goes downriver, or supposedly we're not using of our allocated amount and that type of thing. Plus, how often I remember first coming on the commission that, and I garnered the idea as well until it was researched that the water belonged to Sweetwater County, that flowed through Sweetwater County. Well, after the research and everything, we found out that, and learned, no, the water belongs to the state, and if there's any diversion out of Wyoming waters, the state's the one that's got to approve it, but we need to stand ready to educate and bring people along. So my point is you're going to see, I'm going to hand you the original cooperative agreement, and then I'm going to hand you out a copy of of the new one that's been a drafted one that is going to basically change the name as well as change the scope and the purpose and that type of thing, and it highlights the changes. And it'll have to go through both cities and the county boards to approval, the councils and the boards. So we'll do a quick look over. My point is next Monday at our Protecting the Green River meeting. And if nothing changes or, then this will be on our agenda for our Tuesday meeting, third Tuesday meeting. And as a regular agenda item and take a look at it and go from there. Okay. So I'll make sure, John, you get a copy as well as Sally. So let's make sure I got 5 of them. Okay, this is the original one. If you look down on the right-hand side at the corner, you'll see a date of 07 when it was approved. And the highlighted one coming at you is the new agreement that's being proposed. Okay, extra one, good, thank you. There we go. This one here, Sally, if you give that to John. Both of them. There you go, one for you, both. Okay. All right, so just so that you know that that's coming up, and I wanted you to have time to review it and take a look at it. And it's, there's still an opportunity for us if we want to enter into any litigation, but it's also make sure that we take the time and talk with our councils first and that type of thing. But it really takes us into a focus of being more a collaborative group for education and supporting, being there to support and work collaboratively with Joint Waters Board, work with the many groups that use water and water users and that type of thing, rather than to be a reactive group ready to stand for injunctions. A real good example is we've heard about Million and his diversions. One of the most recent ones is he wants to take water out of the Green River, somewheres I'll say above Flaming Gorge, all the way to Fontanelle, because that's basically just Wyoming water. If you get into Fontanelle, you got a permit through Utah and Wyoming. So his permitting would have to go through Wyoming. Visiting with the people in the water office there, there's a real strong feeling that anything that's going to divert water out of the state of Wyoming, especially for Million, who wants it for the east slope of Colorado, the Wyoming feels strongly about not approving that. But also, as he applies, makes his applications, The west slope of Colorado is prepared to file injunctions for any diversion that may come out of the green, as well as groups in Phoenix, as well as groups in California, and that type of thing. There's not enough water, is the point. So anyway, I'll close that. Next up I have is I've asked Christina to be here. We got an email this week, I think it was yesterday, from Brittany regarding the award letter for ERAP application assistance. I forwarded that to Christina last night. I asked Christina to be here during my comment time and ask her to share what that means and why is it that that was sent to us as commissioners and that type of thing, because it has some unique channels or directions that we need to know about before we move forward with it and decide what we're going to do. So good morning, Christina. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to advance or can I just sit here?
If you would please come up to the podium and introduce, we'd appreciate that.
Okay. So obviously, I just received this just like you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, last night from Sally and the Chairman. So as you know, the world of grants is all about acronyms. So you probably saw ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. You may have heard about this in the media. It was originally under the umbrella of WCDA, and now it's going under DFS. And I'm just summarizing how I understand the information. So DFS is wanting to provide this rental assistance and utility assistance to eligible applicants. They are procuring right now an online system so people can apply online. However, they anticipate there might be a hole in the system. So some folks might need one-on-one face-to-face contact to tap into this assistance. So the Wyoming County Commissioners Association has been involved because they have estimated some funding to counties, which was on that email. Sweetwater County was slated to receive $110,945. So again, DFS wants to provide the online direct services. They're asking if counties could help out and somehow do case management by passing the money through to outside agencies. And as a third side note, not to confuse you, but they're also looking at tapping into the tripartite boards in the different counties. So, but that's not our focus today. So the focus and the real question is if Sweetwater County wants to accept this funding. We don't know if there's an agency that would want to take on the case management. I said to the chairman this morning, we could do an RFP and see. And keep in mind, this funding, actually, the requirements for a citizen to tap into it would be they have to be within 80% of the area median income. They have to prove that they had a reduction in income or hardship because of COVID, and they have to demonstrate a risk of homelessness or housing instability. I've actually had many phone calls from landlords saying, oh, they had renters who could not tap into this funding, and it's because of this criteria. So the timeline to spend this money would be by December 31st of this year. We're already April. We'd have to do an RFP to see if an agency would be interested. Now, just to be clear, the money is federal, another type of federal award. It would go on our schedule of federal expenditures. We would also be responsible for compliance and have that liability. Keep in mind, Sweetwater County has also received other types of assistance dealing with hardship with rental assistance through CSBG CARES. Right now, as of today, I have $78,000 available to agencies. So you're looking at possibly getting another 110,000 or almost 111,000. But keep in mind, I haven't even been able to distribute out 78,000 as of today. So the chairman wanted a group discussion to see if we wanted to accept this funding. And I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Christina. So commissioners, any questions before I have a couple of things? Go ahead, Commissioner Shanefield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Christina, would it be possible to reach out to those folks that receive CSBG? I know that they're
Mhm.
providing similar assistance and seeing how much, if any, they would be interested of receiving this.
Sure.
And how much additional work is that going to cause for you? I know they're already filling everything out for CSBG and are following those fairly stringent guidelines.
Mhm.
I just want to know in comparison to what you're doing already for CSBG, which is a lot, how much this would add to that so we can
Okay.
kind of gauge that.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Shanefield, I'm happy to send out an email. Right now, under the current CSBG program, there's only 2 agencies who deal with rental assistance. That's the YWCA for victims of domestic violence and Sweetwater Family Resource Center. And again, just to be clear, this is only for case management. They would not be responsible for approving the rental assistance. They're helping the individuals fill out the online applications and getting the required paperwork. And it is no extra work for me to shoot out an email. In terms of grants overall, yes, it is an extremely busy time and they keep piling up. It's raining grants right now. So
Commissioner
with budget and everything going on, so.
Commissioner Shanefield?
I would think too that maybe, I know that the YWCA has their financial education
Mhm.
program, that may be another venue. And gosh, there were a couple others, Boys and Girls Club, some of those other folks that do have families that they're already tracking their low income status and things like that. That may be an option as well. So
So the real question is, if the commission's interested, I could advertise an RFP and we don't have to accept this funding unless we see there's interest. And then we could evaluate it then.
Keep in mind that after the RFP, if we were to accept it, the money, then all of a sudden it gets pulled into under our audit. It gets pulled into Christina's office for more work. And after all, if you read between the lines, and it's my sense as I followed this, that there's an organization at the state level that is not capable to get this money out and maybe not prepared to, but anyhow, all of a sudden now, well, let's throw it at the commission and let the commission deal with it. And we're not, like Christine said, it's nothing more than managing the grant and that type of thing. And then all of a sudden, the minute we accept the money, it should, it's originally for who,
It went originally, I believe, to WCDA,
Yeah,
Wyoming Community Development Authority.
yeah, and goes to Department of Family Services through them. Department of Family Services has until the end of this year to spend that money if they want to use it. And I think if they want to use it, my personal feeling is I'm okay with an RFI. I think if it's not too much work, but moving forward beyond that, I just really don't think we should do DFS's work. I don't think Christina should do DFS's work because we can say, yeah, let's do it, but you know who's going to get stuck with it. Plus, we also know anytime our federal grants are audited by our audit firm, when they gave us our price, there was a caveat in there, pending federal grants, additional federal grants, which raises the cost of our audit. So I certainly will support my fellow commissioners moving forward an RFI for that if Christina has time to do it, but I think we need to really carefully look at the next steps.
Who sent the email asking us to do it?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Toman, or Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Toman, the email came through DFS via the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. It came yesterday afternoon, but I know they have been in some discussions and they've actually received a lot more. That they have a certain amount for the local one-on-one case
There was,
management.
yeah, this has been going on. I had commented at our last meeting that last week I would be out of town. But I knew that we had all received a Zoom invite from WCCA across the state regarding this topic. It was supposed to have been last Wednesday, that Zoom meeting. I know we all received it. I replied back and said I couldn't do it because I'd be out of town, but now this is the follow-up to that. So my question would have been, I don't know if, I sense nobody else on the commission was able to watch the Zoom, so no big deal. This is the result of it and this type of thing. So go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
I think it's important that we, as commissioners, try to give every available advantage and opportunity to our residents of Sweetwater County for any programs. It isn't apparent that there's a need or, yeah, we're trying to fill a need that's not there. It seems like, so I would say you have to do an RFP and let's try to find out. I mean, if we help one person with this, then it's probably worth our while, but it seems like there's not a huge demand for it, or maybe it's not advertised. I'm not sure. I don't know maybe people don't know about it, but there certainly doesn't seem like there's a demand right now.
Yeah, with 78,000 left in our other account for it, with only, and you work, and the tripartite works with both those agencies, so I know they know about it and that type of thing. I think it's the criteria for getting that money is what's tying people up. So it becomes questionable if we have this one account that's 78,000, do we want to take on 110,000 more and do all the auditing in that when we can't get rid of what we already have? Go ahead.
And I believe it would be much more successful being pushed out the door if it was coming from DFS.
Yes.
Because they're already processing all the SNAP applications and all of the,
Yep.
The other rental assistance and everything else. So
Let's,
I don't love it, but I think.
I
agree
think
with
we
the
need to
commissioners.
do an RFI.
Yeah.
Would everybody agree? Is that much work?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to do that so we can gauge what the
Gauge it.
community is able to do. And again, it's for case management. The other funding we already have is for direct rental assistance with different criteria. So I'm happy to keep you posted. I'll email you all the results of that and then we can respond accordingly.
All right,
So,
thank you, appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you for last minute being here to
Well,
bail me out.
Wait till the American Rescue Plan comes in. So that'll
Well,
be a whole nother
They-
discussion.
Yeah, but we don't want to talk about that till we know what the sideboards are. There's a
Yeah,
lot
right.
of misinformation out there because nobody knows the sideboards. All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you, appreciate it. That concludes my report, commissioners. Any questions? Okay, up next will be Commissioner Smith. Morning.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board of Public Health, met with them a couple times since our last meeting, and they've been working hard on the legislative concerns that they have with some of the things that we're trying to go through our legislature with limiting public health officers statewide, countywide. And I think fairly pleased with what went through, that only one thing went through with only allowing 10 days worth of public health orders that need to be ratified by either the governor if it's statewide or by commissioners if it is countywide. Not something I really look forward to doing. I don't really want to be in charge of the public health orders, but it looks like that may be our responsibility down the road here. They've also opened up COVID vaccinations to those 16 and over. So get in line, get it done, get your appointment, and they're doing really well with that. Talk budget with them as well, and I'm quite pleased with how they're handling things and look forward to their actual budget request. They've done a lot of great work this year, and obviously a lot of CARES money has come their way, but that hasn't necessarily just as we're hearing now, here's money, but we're having a hard time finding a way to use it. There's programs that they would like to continue or have done in the past, and it's not as though the CARES Act money took care of that for them. So they're working hard to make sure that they come to us with an excellent budget, which I'm looking forward to. I am completely committed to not miss the Southwest Counseling Board meeting. I've missed two on just miscommunications on my own part, and days and times, and it's new since the beginning of the year, and I've just messed it up every time. So really trying hard here in April to make it to that. So that's my commitment. Check in with me later. Hospital board meeting tomorrow, and have talked and met with many times with our CEO, Irene Richardson, as well as the hospital board president, Taylor Jones, talking ambulance and some other things as well. So I do appreciate their time. They've put in a lot of time and effort, and they've talked with me and spent much time with me, as I know they have with others as well. So that's not the only job and responsibility they have, but they have spent a lot of time with me, and I do appreciate that greatly. Also today, we'll be appointing a new board member later in this meeting, so we'll look forward to that. And that is my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Any questions? Moving forward, Commissioner Shanefield, morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Fair Board, Fair 2021, the big show will be produced as it generally has been in years prior. I'm looking forward to that, a little bit of normalcy. They're going to be doing concerts, fireworks, carnival, the 4-H and FFA shows, along with some open class shows and activities. And they're also going to have the midway in the exhibit hall for all the trade shows, and have the livestock auction as well. A lot of the sponsors from previous years are coming back, and so everybody's very excited to have that sponsorship back. And then I know that they started announcing who's going to be doing the concert, so that's exciting to have that back again. Trustee Zadi met with the city zoning department about updating the current zoning designation that the fairgrounds is under. They're willing to make the needed changes, so the staff at the events complex is working with them to ensure that all the activities that are occurring on the grounds are listed within that zoning. And it's going to be an ongoing process between the city, county, and the events complex. So right now, the staff is looking for some examples of fairground districts and fairground overlays, kind of as a starting point to work through that. Staff's also been working on getting MOUs with the government agencies, and they've completed agreements with the City of Rock Springs Police Department, Sweetwater County Road and Bridge, Sweetwater School District 1, Sweetwater County Search and Rescue, and Sweetwater County Public Health. The three that are remaining to be signed are Sweetwater County Emergency Management, the Fire Department, Sweetwater County Fire Department, and the University of Wyoming Extension Office. The National High School Finals Rodeo will be back in Sweetwater County for 2024 and 2025. And they've updated some of their site specification, making it difficult for the events complex to compete for future dates. They're looking at a lot of indoor facilities. And so the 2 indoor arenas, as well as 2 covered arenas and some additional stalls and camp spaces. So they aren't sure if they're going to even be able to apply to get the finals back here in the future. However, we do have those 2 years, which are coming. SCDC's new website is live right now. It's sweetwateredc.org. The Grow Home Entrepreneur Communities has officially started. It's pretty exciting. A press release about the program is being conducted in Sweetwater County is going to be released this week to all the local media outlets. The Sweetwater Industrial Siting or Development Study is finalized, and the phase 4 should be completed within the next 2 weeks. And SCDC has responded to 2 Wyoming Business Council leads since the beginning of the year, so that's good. The museum has lots of activities going on. For Women's History Month, they did a YouTube video and Facebook posts. It was very popular and received a lot of responses and reactions. The Crazy Quilts exhibit, it's their 4th annual exhibit with the Sweetwater County Quilt Guild. It brought in lots of visitors and received a lot of attention from news and online. They offered a mini quilt craft activity for children to pick up at the museum and take home, which I'm sorry that I missed because that would have been fun. There was also the Mickey Toman oral history that Mary was able to work with them on. And I know that Mickey Toman and then Commissioner Mary Toman and Lori and her daughter Taylor were all involved in this interview. And the interview is going to be transcribed and archived in the museum's repository. The historic firearm research requests have dramatically increased. And so I think that this has been a very publicly excited thing. And Dick Bluss has been doing a lot of research that's gathered a lot of attention. So that's ongoing. They've also been working on recruiting and training volunteers, and that's been paying off nicely. They've had lots of reaction from our community members wanting to be involved. They're also continuing to offer some education programs, both in-house and in the classroom and virtually, and they've continued to have success with that. And they are also hosting a virtual book club event on Nighthawk Rising, which is a biography on a cattle rustler from Sweetwater County. And so that's something that's upcoming as well. They're gearing up their store for the tourist season also. So I've also had many discussions with community members around the ambulance, as well as some concerns that they had that we're flushing out. I've met with Commissioner Lloyd, and I've met with Gary multiple times to discuss some personnel issues and things that he's working on. And we also had a 6 penny meeting, initial meeting last week. So what came out of that is that they are really hoping that for the commission to come up with one and maybe even 2 options for our consideration in terms of length of time and the dollar amount. Obviously, those both coincide, and what we're willing to look at putting on the ballot, and then also giving them a flexible amount or percentage that each municipality will receive from that total amount. I've committed to having this agreed upon by our 2nd meeting in May so that they can go back and fill out the list of their projects. They don't want to come up with a bunch of lists of projects and then for us to come back and be like, oh no, that doesn't fit under the percentage that you're going to get, or that doesn't fit under the total amount, and then them having to cut back. They'd rather have the amount and then be able to build out what projects they find will fit under that, which I think is a good approach. This will give each municipality a month then to polish up that list of projects that they'd like to include. And then we will reconvene at the end of June to review the projects and polish up anything before the group will meet in the end of June before bringing them to the commission in July. I would like to have our list approved by the commission in August if we choose to move forward so that we can engage Stiefel and begin working on that marketing and packaging process that is available for us.
Very good.
And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions for Commissioner Shanefield? One question. Would the first meeting in May for us to have that conversation for setting the dollar amount and that type of thing?
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, would you get it on the agenda, please?
Yep.
And that type of thing.
I'm going to
Then-
have Rob come in and talk to us as well.
That'd be good. And also, will you give the same report tomorrow night at the intergovernmental?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions for Commissioner Shanefield? Good report. Thank you. Up, Commissioner Lloyd.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After our last meeting, I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday, I was driving through town and I like to listen to Al Harris in the morning, and a lot of it's because of the Let's Talk show. And as I'm driving, I go, that's a familiar voice. And I said, oh my word, that's Commissioner Smith talking about ambulance. And I spent about the next 30 minutes because I started a little bit later. Jeff said he was on air for about 40 minutes. And I want to commend Jeff for that interview and providing information to our community about ambulance, and just kind of touch on that real quick with just thanks to Jeff and the leadership he's shown in this really what has been a controversial issue during some difficult periods. So I think Jeff did a great job in getting some information out there, and I wanted to give him some kudos. So a great job. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Rob.
And then with that, yeah, there have been days I've looked at Jeff and I could tell that he's just like, oh my word, this ambulance thing's killing me, but he's done a great job. And I think
Today's
the
one of those
community
days.
needs to know, And I think the community needs to know, and we've heard this from multiple people, that we've made more steps in changing a system in 3 months than we have in 5, 6, 7 years since we've got that Safeco study. So people have to know, and I think the community needs to know, we do want an ambulance service, and we are committed to making changes to make it efficient and quality-based services. And sometimes, change is difficult, and sometimes to get to change, you got to have significant conflict, and I think we've seen that. But I do think through some collaboration, we're on the right path. So I think that's a good thing to look at. Want to just reiterate something Doc had said earlier, and thank the auto recyclers and John Liggett and his family for all the years of help and assistance they gave to the county to help with our abandoned vehicle project. It truly is appreciated. Next on to my liaison reports. I had my first emergency communication meeting last Monday. We just discussed budget, had some budget discussions. They discussed training and some of the systems they're working into. Library, we don't, I want to mention that the library did open their Children Discovery Center. There is some limited availability. They do it every day by reservation based upon due to some COVID restrictions, but I do think that is a really strong addition to our community. And it's my understanding that Janet Pastor kind of led a lot of that effort in putting some of that together, and want to thank her and Jason and his crew and all the volunteers that have made that happen. It is a great attribute to our community. Star bus will be next week. And then Conservation District, Mary and I did meet with them about their budget last week. And just they currently are extending their grant deadline extension for conservation projects. And they also are planning to move their building to over where Golden Hour is also. And they are planning up on their Trees for Recyclable program coming up here in the next couple months. So lots of good work from that group. Sixpenny, Lauren mentioned already. We have decided to kind of cease the animal control unification at this point, outside of creating some partnerships and relationships and maybe meeting every 4 to 6 months. Sorry, I got distracted there, but but at this point, we don't see the need for looking further at unification, because I think the majority of the parties aren't into that idea at this point. I've met with Gene, kind of going over his stuff. We'll see most of the stuff we talk about later in the meeting, but there's no major issues there. Christina has a lot of grant stuff going on that we've already heard a little bit about this morning, and continues to be looking into the new CARES Act, the Recovery Act money, which I think will be a large piece of what we'll be looking at in the near future. As Lauren said, we've met multiple times with Gary on some personnel issues. We've also talked about Accolade. We've talked about we've also been talking about redundancies that Doc had put us on, and working towards some of those directions. And then kind of lots of meetings, a lot of department heads, directors, elected officials, and constituents concerning a wide range of topics. I do want to bring up one thing. I've had conversations with Gene and Donna Lee Bobeck, and we did talk to Gary quickly a couple weeks ago. They each have a position that we've denied, and they're going into their budget session, and they'd like to know how we'd like to proceed with that. And I just have a couple numbers I want to share with that before we move forward, and I just need to pull that up real quick. Gene was looking to replace someone in Road and Bridge, and just to give some numbers, in 2010, that the Road and Bridge had 35.25 full-time employees. At this current point, they have 23.75 employees, meaning that departments had to cut over 10 full-time employees during that point. And that doesn't also include what's been in the reduction of an assistant engineer that was never hired and will probably never be hired at this point in the near future. Also, a decrease in custodial staff, and also building maintenance staff. And we've seen a recent move where we had an opening in the Parks and Rec department where Gene kind of made it a co-op position between Parks and Rec and also maintenance as a combination position. And so we need to decide how we want to look at these positions. And I would recommend that we relook at the position for Gene at this point and have that discussion. And I don't know how the best way to do is maybe put on the session for next session or next meeting. But when we talk about reducing employees, when you talk about a department being down 10, already reducing 10 employees, I think they've done their part in some of the reductions, and we can look at that. And then lastly, Donnelly, we had a position too, and just an interesting number there. In their request for budget, they're requesting $50,000 in overtime this upcoming year. And she's basing that off the current overtime they're running in their department to cover the missing position. And when I actually ran her numbers based upon her January, February overtime numbers, I actually believed she's on more of a pace of about $61,000 a year of overtime. And so I do think we may want to look at that position also and just have that discussion. And as I say these things, I think I really need to challenge department directors and elected officials to really evaluate your positions. Do we have people cross-trained? Are we moved around right? Because we can't hire every position we need at this point. We're just not at that point. But I do think we need to take a look at these things and really integrate where we're at with things. And so I guess I would just ask Mr. Chairman and any other commissioners, is there a way we could relook at these positions and at least have that discussion, because they'd like to know before they put in their budget stuff?
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Was that a direct question to?
That was a direct question, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have been more direct.
I tried to listen really carefully. I had a good report, and I heard two parts of your report. One of them was with the budget coming up, how to carry those positions in their budgets. Well, first of all, I think our budgets need to reflect exactly what we're going to spend, not what we want to spend, whether it's employees or not. So with that in mind, I also want us to keep in mind that we can do budget amendments. If we ask people to reflect, and Gene's sitting here, so Mr. Gursky's here. If we say, hey, we're not going to put that position in the budget, hire it right, for next year, then Mr. Legursky's budget should reflect actually who is hired for next year, not the one position we'd like to fill. And that would be the same for Donna Lee. So that's one of the questions I heard early in your report. We're dealing with budget. The second question that was most recently presented is, what can we do? Commissioner Lloyd, I think you were one of the no votes on that position.
On both of them, yes.
For Public Works.
Yeah, it was actually no.
So therefore, to revisit that agenda item or that particular item, it would take one of the three no votes to request to be put on the agenda again. And if memory serves me correctly, that would be either you, Commissioner Shanefield, or Commissioner Smith. If you put it on the agenda, it can be revisited. I'm not sure if there was a vote on the clerk of courts position. I'm trying to think back on that. I think that did not make it for what do I want to say? A motion, failed for lack of a motion. So therefore, that's probably, I would look to our assistant attorney, Mr. De Leon, that if it didn't make it because of a motion, can it come back on through an agenda item or how?
They can be brought.
They can. So.
In both scenarios, and I'll clarify that.
Okay, very good.
But they can, in fact, I was looking into that, and they can be brought back up. And I'll give you that mechanism.
You what?
I'll give you that mechanism.
Okay, thank you. But the answer is we'll follow whatever mechanism that Mr. De Leon, coming from the county attorney's office, recommends. Does that answer your question, Mr. Lloyd? Commissioner
Yeah.
Lloyd?
I think so. I think we should relook at those positions, have a discussion as they go into their budgets. And even if we choose not to move forward with them, I do think that there's data that's compelling enough to take a definite look at those positions and just make sure we run that process. So.
Yeah, and there's always, after we finish our budget process and where we know where we're exactly at, there's also opportunities, but again, too, yeah, whatever you want to do. All right? Commissioner, yes,
Mr. Chairman, so you simply have to renew the motion. It is that simple, and it can be brought by members that on both sides.
on both sides,
On
okay.
both sides. So when you reconsider, then it has to be brought by a member who is on the winning side.
Okay,
Reconsider is done the same day. Renewing is done on a future day.
all right, so reconsidering would be the Public Works position.
Well, I think that since it's a future day where it would be something that would be renewed, and any commissioner can bring that forward when he or she desires.
All right, so I will delegate that to Commissioner Lloyd, since you brought it to the table through your report, to work with Mr. De Leon, so we get it on a future agenda if you wish.
Thank you.
Commissioner Toman?
Yes, I think it definitely should be reconsidered, and I understand with the Public Works, I mean, when you have a specialized employee and you take that employee out and you don't have anyone else to replace that position, I think it's hurtful to the county. And if you're paying overtime to the clerk's office, I believe in conserving our money, but I think we have some essential services like those that it behooves us to move forward. They already have money in their budget to get through this year. And I know it's going to be hard for them to have to make another month when all the spring work is happening. So
Well,
that's my opinion.
And if what you're saying is exactly right. The one other thing with the other position that came out of the clerk of court's office, I believe that the motion, it failed because of a lack of a motion, because the county clerk had not worked with HR, working through those 6-7 points on our hiring freeze resolution. So we need to make sure those things are gone through for those positions in those other areas, rather than a specialized or a safety position, i.e. whether it's fire, law enforcement, or whatever. Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions, comments, commissioners? With that, that concludes our commissioner reports and moves us into our action presentation items. I know the first thing up is Mr. Brubaker with Federal Aviation Administration, but before we get going, does anybody want a break? How long? 10 minutes? Okay, Mr. Brubaker, I know you're out there, but Devin, we're going to take 10 minutes, so we'll be back here at 10 minutes to 10 to take the first action item. Take a break. Action item, excuse me. Apologize. Thank you. Our first order of business under tab C is the Federal Aviation Administration Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program Grant Agreement. And here joining us today to present that is Mr. Devin Brubaker, the Executive Director for the airport. Good morning, Devin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not being there in person this morning. A little bit of a crazy schedule this morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to join you via Zoom. Before you today is a grant agreement as well as a supplemental addendum or a grant agreement addendum. The original grant agreement is pages 1 through 27, and the addendum is pages 28 through 39. There's technically two different programs that are covered by this grant. The total amount of the grant is $1,013,325. $1,008,173 of that amount is for use by the airport for costs related to operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitization, janitorial services, combating the spread of pathogens at the airport, and debt service payments. The other amount, $5,255, that's covered in the addendum. Once again, pages 28 through 39 is funding that is passed through the airport to airport concessionaires like rental car companies and so forth. When Congress appropriated funds as part of the CRISA program back around Christmas, they included funding for airport concessionaires across the country and basically charged airports with distributing those funds through airports right on to those concessionaires. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have. This is in addition to the CARES Act funds that were received back in April of 2020. This is the second round of relief funding for airports across the country. So happy to answer any questions you all have. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Commissioners, questions regarding this agenda item, this grant?
Good job once again.
Yeah, really. It's excellent. Thank you, Devin. With no questions at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the Federal Aviation Administration Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program Grant Agreement and authorize the chairman to sign.
I would be happy to do that.
We have a
Thanks,
motion by Commissioner Toman to approve and authorize the chairman to sign. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shanefield. Any further discussion? One question, Devin, is I believe that's the electronic signature form that's sitting in my email. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Upon approval, you can sign that digitally via Adobe Sign. Once you submit it with your signature, it'll forward on to John DeLeon for his signature. And once he signs it, it'll go over to Mayor Como for his signature after City Council approves it at tonight's meeting.
Thank you for that, Mr. Brubaker. Any further discussion, commissioners? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Devin. Keep up the good work and appreciate how the airport provided services last week, flying in and flying out of Rock Springs Airport to Orlando. My bride and I appreciated it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, all right, with that, moving on, tab D is facility use agreements, and to present those as well as a number of the next items is Mr. Legursky, our Public Works Director. Mr. Legursky, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For this agenda item, which I have before you, John DeLeon and I have been working on and off on this for quite a while now. Facility use agreements for mainly our parks and our own buildings. We get a lot of things that we do not know what's going on in our buildings. It's scary from a liability standpoint, and the communication sometimes doesn't always flow back to us. And we thought if we got this in writing, there would be a good way to be able to say, hey, we told you guys this needs to come back to us. You know, we like the use of our buildings. We appreciate the use of our buildings. I think you guys, you know, have the buildings out there. We just have to know. And most of it's from a liability standpoint. You know, and other things for maintenance standpoint, sometimes people buy things and then say, hey, can you hook this up? And we have to run power, or they don't know that it takes 220 power. And you know, they say, well, I have a plug here. And we're like, well, that's 220. That's not, you know, so we have to do stuff like that. So just some heads up and communication. Along the parks, we're trying to get this down, and we're not going to, there's fees associated with this, if you guys see that, but we don't want to do fees this year. We want to see where it is and see what it does, but we have a possibility of charging fees. A lot of things, if you have a birthday party out at a park or something like that, they arrive on site, they do it, but we don't get an insurance certificate. They put a bouncy house up and they drive the stakes through our sprinkler systems, you know, stuff like that. They want to unload a barbecue and they drive across the grass and tear up the grass, stuff like that. So this facility use agreement for large venues, stuff like that, mainly in our parks right now, it'll be geared towards soccer and softball. Hopefully the water line that's being constructed right now, part of the bridge project, will get constructed so that we can actually water this year, because right now we're getting moisture, but it's not enough. So that's basically what this is. I think it's an all-encompassing agreement. We can use it in multiple places. We don't have to duplicate and have everybody read this, but what I'd like is for the approval of this facility use agreement, and then allow the chairman to sign once these agreements have been given out to people and they have a chance to review them and come back on a case-by-case basis. John, did I do that good enough?
No. So I think
The answer is no.
It wasn't.
He's going to continue talking.
the only thing, Gene, that do you want the chair approval for the chairman to sign, or I think approval for you to sign those as you or your designated person?
And that's, I left it as the chairman, but we can do it either way if you guys feel comfortable enough with that. You know, that way if somebody comes up and we need to do one really quick for the buildings and everything like that, they're a stationary customer, I guess, of ours. So the chairman would probably sign it. But for the parks and stuff like that, when we get people, it's might be kind of difficult to chase down the chairman. So I agree with that.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Legursky? Okay, so with that, Commissioners, what's your pleasure regarding the facility use agreement and authorizing chairman to sign?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I would like to make a motion to approve the facility use agreements as presented and allow the chairman to sign.
We have a motion to approve and allow the chairman to sign. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lloyd. Commissioner Smith, discussion?
Did we not want to add Gene on there as well to sign?
Oh, very good. All right.
I will amend my motion to allow Gene to sign
As well.
as needed, and the chairman to sign as needed.
Very good. Thank you. The motion's been amended to approve and allow the chairman and/or Mr. Legursky to sign as needed. Is there a second? There is a second by Commissioner Lloyd. Do you agree?
Yes.
All right. With that, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. How's that for you, Gene? All right, moving on. Next up is tab E, the 4-H shooting sports program fee reduction. Mr. Legursky?
This started out as an email from Chris Meets to Commissioner Wendling or Chairman Wendling, and then it was forwarded to me. And I think all of you guys have kind of read the email chain. And what 4-H is asking is because of COVID and their lack of being able to raise funds, they want a reduction of their fees to, I believe, zero. If they shoot up at the trap club, you know, they're 10 to 15 people. Right now, we do give them a break of $1 off per round. I believe it's from 5 to 4, 4 to 3. I can't exactly remember. You know, it basically covers a little bit of electricity cost and clay targets. So right now, you know, it's up to you guys. I think everybody kind of knows where everybody's at. I didn't feel comfortable making a recommendation because I didn't know where this board would be. So I left the motion completely up to you guys.
Okay, commissioners, questions?
I would make the motion to approve it.
We No questions regarding it?
I have a question.
Okay, can we back up to a question, please, Ms. Tolman? Go ahead.
What is the cost going to be to the county?
Basically, 25 targets is $2.37. So when they shoot that, we have credit card fees and everything that we don't charge. We just eat those because they're very hard. So, you're probably looking at 265, 270 per round. They typically shoot with 10 people, they shoot 2 rounds, so it's going to be $1,100, $1,200 because they do it multiple times.
Okay, and primarily because of fundraising was so
Yeah.
small.
Right now, I think they initially said it was 1,400 last time that they did it. So it's probably right around there with the actual cost.
Do you have room in your budget to absorb that?
This year I do. I don't know. Next year, it depends
Okay.
on what you guys do to me. I think we can make $1,400 work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can make it work. Any other questions?
No, just a comment. I support 4-H. My kids are active 4-H members. They raise animals. We're in fact getting sheep and goats this weekend to add to the pig collection. So I'm ecstatic. But in a time where we're cutting departments, we're looking at significant cuts. It's hard for me to look at giving an $1,100 donation to 4-H because it reaches such a small population of the county. So I won't be supporting this. I support the group, but I just don't think it's the right economic time to make an $1,100 donation when we're pushing employees and going a different direction with employees. So.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Other comments? All right, so Commissioner, back to it. Commissioners, your pleasure. Commissioner Tillman,
I would make the motion.
to approve? Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? I would like to see the motion amended to where it's just this year alone, if it does pass. So I would entertain a motion to amend the motion.
To this calendar year.
Yep, to just this calendar year.
I'll make the motion, or I'll amend my motion to
Include for the year. Okay, very good.
here only.
Amend the second. Okay, very much so. All right, so with that, we have a motion and a second to approve the request, but just for the calendar year. Any further discussion? Yeah, I think they need, if it continues, one of the discussion comment is going back to Commissioner Lloyd's. Yes, we will be doing, and 4-H won't how should I escape the share of cuts as everybody else will. And this definitely does impact those kids, but same token, how many more sponsorships may come forward or requests for fees to be waived, and how that'll impact the budget over the years and whether we're prepared for it. So I think it has to be looked at as a individual situation when we're out the budget. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. So with that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. Nay.
Okay, motion carries. Commissioner Lloyd, would you like the record to reflect a no vote?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Let the record show. Going on, next agenda item is the City of Rock Springs Site Plan Application for Southwest Counseling. Is that right? Okay, very good. Mr. Legursky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this is Southwest Counseling is going to install the modular buildings. They got donated 3-4 years ago on permanent foundations. You guys are the owner of that property down there, so the City of Rock Springs needs you to sign the application for the site plan, letting them know that you guys know the process and that it's going forward. Southwest Counseling will handle all the fees, and they've handled all the engineering and everything like that. It's just a matter of formality because you guys are the owner.
Do we have that form?
Yes, it's on there. And I believe Sally has a copy of it.
Okay, very good. Oh, I looked on the wrong page. It's on,
Okay,
it's on the other page. Thank you very much. I'm
Scared
sorry.
me.
No, I had to, some of the incomplete stuff I have is on another page, Mr. Gursky. Sorry. All right, commissioners, any questions regarding the site plan application for Southwest Counseling? Everybody knows which buildings they're talking about? Go ahead. Commissioner Shanefield.
Does this affect our insurance or is it covered under their insurance?
It'll affect ours and theirs both. But Gary already knows about it.
Okay, and it's been taken care of?
Yes.
Ah,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're also talking to them about, course construction coverage and stuff like that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Very good. All right, very good. Okay, with that, any other questions, Commissioner?
Yeah,
Commissioner-
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lloyd.
Hey, Gene, just a quick question. I know we've had some issues with people, other organizations moving forward in projects without discussing it. You have any concerns with this before we move forward with this?
No, and to be honest with you, Southwest Counseling and I have been talking about this for a year or more.
Okay,
It's just a matter of getting everybody. Contract language and hiring contractors is a weird thing. And unless you're used to delving in that responsibility. So they've been really forthcoming and just, hey, we don't know how to do this. How do you do it? And we've been talking on and off. So.
perfect. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioners? With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the City of Rock Springs site plan application for Southwest Counseling and authorize the chairman to sign it.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith to approve and authorize chairman to sign, and that is for buildings located at 2300 Foothill Boulevard. Is there a second?
Second.
Wait a minute.
Ankeny Way.
Ankeny Way, I'm sorry. Ankeny Way. It says Foothill Boulevard.
I messed up. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. 20, anyhow, for Ankeny Way, is there a second? Who was it? Roy,
Yeah,
second by
second.
Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll get that taken care of. Next up, tab G, Resolution 21-04-EN-01, Speed Limit Declaration, County Road Number 3, FMC Road. Mr. Legursky, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'll do is kind of give an overall highlight for the next four, so we don't have to go through each one
Okay.
separately.
Thank
But back in 2011, the state legislature changed the recommended speed limit on all the roads within, that they have jurisdiction over within the state of Wyoming. And in Title 31, Chapter 5, Article 3, basically they said, 20 miles per hour in school zones, 30 miles per hour in urban zones as defined, 30 miles per hour in residential districts, 30 miles per hour in any subdivision, 75 on interstates, 65 on all other paved roads. And the one that scares me the most, 55 on all unpaved roads. So the only way, basically what that says is if there isn't a speed limit posted by a speed study, these are the speed limits that Mr. Gross-Nickel has to enforce. With the unpaved roads, we've done speed studies, and the hard part about it is you could go 55 on a unpaved road right now, and 2 hours later it rains or snows and it's not, the road falls apart or something like that. All the roads that you have before you are paved roads, and all of these we've done studies on. Now, when we say we're going to raise the speed limit to 65 on a particular road, that's for the majority of the road, but we'll still have warning signs on curves and stuff like that. We've driven all the roads at different speeds to find out, like FMC is a pretty straight road. You go to the Jenner Road, the OCI road. It's not, it's got 2 hairpin curves in there, and we will speed limit them accordingly, but those will be yellow and black signs, which are non-regulatory. They're advisory, but they still have to pertain to them. So when you see a speed limit sign, it's white and black. That's actually a regulatory sign. And those are the ones that you guys will actually be changing. And then based on engineering analysis and stuff like that, we'll go through and post the other areas that we need to for safety.
Very good.
So with this one, the speed limit on County Road 3, FMC Road. We're looking at raising the speed limit from milepost 0, which is where it connects to the frontage road, to 3.7, which is short of the plant. It actually is like when you go across the viaduct there, there's actually a causeway that goes across their pond. It turns into a non-county road past that, from 55 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour through that stretch.
Okay.
And just so you guys know, I have talked to everyone there. Jenner wasn't really excited about this when we talked about it last year.
Mhm.
And then I showed him the actual speed study and said, here's what it is. The speed study is broken into how stuff is designed, basically how wide it is, which kind of shoulders you have. The other interesting thing is it takes account into the 85% speed of what people are currently doing on the road. And then it also is a 50% pace, what 10% of the people are within 50% of that. And right now, unfortunately, FMC Road, the speed limit on 65 will be just fine. That's all I'll say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gursky. What we'll do is, first of all, any questions in general about the 4 resolutions? Commissioners,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead. Mr. Smith.
On the first one here, it looks like 5 of the 10 accidents in the last 10 years were antelope.
Mhm.
You going to talk to the antelope at all, or what?
You know, that one, and then if you look at County Road 1, it's very interesting because if you look at every single one of them, it's a black baldy cow that they get hit. They just lose them all the time down there too. So yeah, we'll try to talk to the antelope. If you know of a antelope whisperer, let me know.
Other questions, commissioners, on all of them in general? Did I sense you may have run into a little resistance from one of the raising the speed limit on any one of the roads?
Well, yeah, when we first spoke to FMC, I can't remember my mind just went blank. Genesis, yes, Genesis. They were, but I had talked to their lawyer and said, here's all the speed limit studies. Here's what you guys are currently doing on the road. You know, so they can do whatever they want inside their plan and inside, you know, for the rest of the road or whatever like that. But
It's just our road part.
yeah, and then once they read all the data and everything like that, they just thought we were just going to raise it. But once they read all the data and saw the report, they were fine with that.
Okay, very good. All right, other questions, commissioners, of the 4 resolutions in general, then we'll take each one individually. No questions? Okay, first up, commissioners, your pleasure for resolution 21-04-EN-01, speed limit declaration, County Road number 3, FMC. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd,
I'd so move.
we have a motion to approve resolution 21-04-EN-01 for County Road number 3, FMC. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shanefield. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, next up, resolution 21-04-EN-02- or the speed limit declaration, County Road number 6, which is the OCI entrance road. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I will move.
Commissioner Toman moves to approve resolution 21-04-EN-02 for County Road number 6, OCI entrance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is resolution 21-04-EN-03, speed limit declaration, County Road number 15, 9 Mile Road. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Shanefield to approve resolution 21-04-EN-03, which is County Road number 15, 9 Mile Road. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, resolution number 21-04-EN-04, speed limit declaration, County Road number 85, Tenneco Road. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'll move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith to approve resolution 21-04-EN-04, County Road number 85, Tenneco Road. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, commissioners. Job well done. Next up, tab K is the Wyoming Machinery Master Equipment Lease Agreement. Mr. Legursky, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this is from time to time, we need to rent specialized equipment from Wyoming Machinery 3 to 6 times a year. We also do rent stuff from other places. You know, like right now, you guys saw in the picture of the Traco. We couldn't reach that culvert with our backhoe because it's bigger than our backhoe. So we had to rent a Traco. And what we're trying to do is, instead of us having to get insurance every time, sign a lease agreement, do all that stuff and paperwork, we'd like to do this. So our insurance just gets mailed to them, and we sign a lease agreement that's good for X number of years. And then we just can go ahead and pick something up, and then they just bill us. It just makes the paperwork easy. We ran into this a couple of years ago when it was snowing, trying to get extra equipment out on the road and having to go through the paperwork and not being able to get it out on the road. You know, that doesn't happen all the time. I'm not saying that that's the reason we're doing that. Just trying to streamline the paperwork and do these things. One of the things I want to point out, and Mr. De Leon can help me if I mess this up, because I probably will. If you look at right now, we're still continually work with Wyoming Machinery, because there's a couple paragraphs in here that we don't like, and mainly it's section 21 under indemnification. And we're trying to get that changed right now. So if what I'm asking for is to approve this with the changes that we'll see, as long as John's okay with it, you guys would be okay with it. And basically what it is under the indemnification, we want them to be responsible if something happens, and us to be responsible for ourselves. We don't want to have to hire a lawyer for them. Did I get that correct, John?
Yep.
Okay.
Nice job.
He just told me about 15 minutes ago what it was, so don't get too excited.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Legursky or Mr. De Leon?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
thank you. Jean, is the only person allowed to sign for these you, or do you have other staff that would be able to sign?
No, it's just me.
Okay, that sounds good.
And it's an e-signature on these typically, so it works very well.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that you would always be aware when there
Yes,
was
no,
rentals.
it's me.
Very good. Thank you. Other questions? Commissioners, pleasure regarding the Wyoming Machinery Master Equipment Lease Agreement pending agreed changes by Mr. De Leon.
It doesn't come with a driver when you're sure to help, no.
I know a couple of guys up there. If we could get their trainer, I'd be really happy.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I'll make a motion to approve the Wyoming Machinery Master Equipment Lease Agreement and allow the Public Works Director to sign once approved by the County Attorney's Office as amended.
All right, we have a motion to approve, allows Public Works Director to assign once the agreement is approved or amended by the County Attorney's Office. Is there a second?
I would be happy to second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Any further discussion, commissioners? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good job, Gene.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning. Thank your people for all their work.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks. Time to go back to work. All right, up next is tab L, the pre-employment contract for new sworn sheriff's office personnel. And I believe joining us again via Zoom is our sheriff, Mr. Sheriff Grossnickel. So good morning, Sheriff. How are you?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, doing well. I apologize for not being there. I'm trying to multitask and get several things done at once.
I know, you just didn't want to come and see us, did you?
Oh, it'd probably been better if I would have.
Yeah, no, we'll still work with you, but yeah, we'd like to see your face once in a while.
I'll try
Anyhow,
to make it next time.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
What this is it's the same contract that we approved when I took office. The only difference is we need Commissioner Toman's signature on the last page. Just for reference, this last year, we were able to recoup $6,200 worth of training, uniform and equipment from 2 employees that did decide to leave before the contract was up. So it is putting some of that money back into the fund so we can continue.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Questions, commissioners, with regard to this contract, pre-employment contract?
Do you want me to stop by and sign that? I'll be going back and forth.
We've got a form we'll all re-sign
Oh.
on. Yeah, there's all commissioners will sign. So yeah, I looked, it's there. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Toman. Commissioners, other questions? Commissioners, what's your pleasure regarding the pre-employment contract for new sworn sheriff's office personnel? Commissioner Toman.
I would make the motion.
Commissioner Toman moves to approve the pre-employment contract for new sworn sheriff's office personnel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Sheriff. And in case you weren't on early this morning, thank you for your work and oversight in the work with the abandoned vehicle lot and getting it cleared out and getting all the right people involved to assist you. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that and wish you the best of luck moving forward with the abandoned vehicle program.
Mr. Chairman, I did hear that. Can I have a quick minute for a follow-up on Mr. Legursky's speed?
Sure.
Just so you're aware, I've reached out to a couple of the landowners, especially on County Road 6, which goes to Jenner, and we'll extend this to the other roads that were in question also. But we have stepped up our speed enforcement out there, and starting the first part of May, we will be putting our portable signs out there to remind those that are going to work that there will be livestock on the road, particularly on that road. There's a couple ranchers that will be releasing their livestock at that time. But again, we're willing to do that for any of those roads if there is an issue.
Thank you, Sheriff. Question regarding the portable signs for when livestock are out there. Will they be out there year round, or are they just put out during the time when we know livestock is present?
We are just going to do it, Mr. Commissioner or Mr. Chairman, for the first week or two, just to remind people that they're going to be out there. If we do have issues with speed, again, we can always put them out there, but our deputies are doing regular patrols in those areas. So I think it's starting to pay off having our deputies out there.
Thank you, Sheriff, and tell your deputies thank you also, and appreciate you stepping up the surveillance out there. Anything else, Commissioners, for Sheriff? All right, Sheriff, thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate all your staff and all their work.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
You too as well. Bye-bye. All right, next up will be our board appointments, and let me look here first, get out of the sheriff's. First up will be Memorial Hospital board appointment. Okay, mine didn't come up. I'm sorry. Okay, I got it. This is a appointment effective July 1 of 21. It's due to the expiring term of Richard Matthey. There has been a request from the chairman of the hospital, as well as Mr. Matthey, who is leaving. And their request is if we could do an appointment pending, and I think Commissioner Smith, you may have the right thing, but anyhow, do a nomination effective July 1, but do it today so that person can, whoever it is that's put on, will be would be able to do some training and work with the board to be brought up to speed. So anyhow, Mr. Matthey did not put in an application to be considered for reappointment. Our applicants are William Journey, Dr. Sigsby Duck, Dave Jarrell, Candy Pendleton, Nina James, Robbie Delore, and Gwenna Fitzgerald. Before I go to the liaison to ask for his recommendation for appointment, would be interested to hear what each of the commissioners are thinking. So I'll just start it down at the end of the table. Commissioner Lloyd, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. We've received letters. I find it odd to want to do the pre-training because we've not done this on any other board appointment at the hospital or any other board. So I just kind of wanted to ask John DeLeon, is this unusual? Is this a bad precedent to possibly set? What are your thoughts on that?
So the options that the board has, the board could do the direct request, which would be to appoint now. I think I've had discussions with Commissioner Smith and the chairman. You also have the option of providing a recommended person to be the trustee, subject to appointment in June. In other words, it would create a situation where you're giving a recommendation today that person would be, then the hospital could do whatever they want with that individual, meaning they can sit down with them, they can train them, but it could effectively change in June for whatever reason. So what that accomplishes is it allows there to be a recommendation. It allows you to follow the statute, which says that the appointment shall be made in June. And it also allows that you don't have two individuals appointed at the same time,
Okay.
meaning Mr. Matthew as trustee and whomever you recommend today. So those are your two options that you have available to you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
As,
Appreciate that.
as far as individuals that I'm really interested here, what Jeff said. I saw what Chairman Sawada from the hospital recommended, and I do agree. I've worked with Candy for a long time with the events complex and think she could be an effective board member. I think Nina James could be an effective board member, and I do expect those recommendations, and I can't wait to hear what Jeff says. But I also would think that Dr. Sigsby Duck would be also a very fine board member also. And I know he wasn't one mentioned, but he's someone I'm also interested in.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Commissioner Toman?
Well, I guess I recruited Dr. Robbie Delure. She's been in the community for a number of years. She's very interested in getting more involved in public service. She is vice president of a global technology services company. She's done a lot of traveling, but due to COVID now, she's been able to work from home. So she did run for school district number 2 school board and did not get that election, but she's also now been appointed to their task force on budget. She's had a lot of experience with profit and loss statements, customer satisfaction, staffing, training, business development. So I think she'd make a great candidate. She doesn't have any agenda. She did attend the tour. I invited her to come with me to the hospital last week. She does not know anything about healthcare, but she does have that business background. So she would be my recommendation, although I think the others are all very fine candidates as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shanefield?
Yes, thank you. I would have to agree with Commissioner Lloyd on his 3 picks. I think Candy Pendleton would do a wonderful job. She's had lots of experience. She spends a lot of time in our community. My concern with her would be time around that, just because I know Nina James is retired and does definitely have time. I also think that Dr. Duck would be wonderful. He's been very actively involved in the hospital for a long period of time. I also want to draw attention to Dave Jarrell. He did mention me in his letter. He's fairly new to our community and reached out to me knowing that I was involved in a lot of different areas and asked for some different areas that he could be involved in. So I think that sometimes an outside perspective is also a good one. So, I mean, I'm interested to listen to hear what Commissioner Smith has bringing from the hospital.
Thank you, Commissioner Shanefield. We'll pass Commissioner Smith at the moment. He'll get to talk last. I'd look at the list and I go, what a great problem to have.
Yeah.
It's a great problem to have. And I only know that Commissioner Smith, being the liaison, has worked very closely with the hospital, and hopefully they have shared with what their needs are and where the strengths they need to fill. So I think it's going to be difficult enough with just from your comments, fellow commissioners, as well as just looking at the list and say, you can't make a mistake on your recommendation, Commissioner Smith. So I'll turn it over to you.
Just watch me. I'll do my best to mess it
Oh,
up.
you know what?
I'll try.
We'll support you.
Thank you. Yeah, they formed a committee, and the recommendation out of that committee came as Candy Pendleton to fill this appointment. And I think it's been explained pretty well. It's a 5-year term. The hospital board is fairly complex in the things that they do and manage. And so it was asked to have this this little bit different process where we're saying, yeah, I think we're going to appoint this person in June, but we can't do it until June. So they can get some training, shadow Mr. Matthew. And he's going to take a lot of institutional knowledge with him when he departs. So whatever he can share with somebody else before he does, it would be excellent and much appreciated. So the recommendation from myself is Candy Pendleton, although once again, all these applicants are wonderful, and I see Judge James often, and I'll probably get an earful from her, but Candy Pendleton was the recommendation from the board.
Very good. So with that, Commissioner Smith, you are the liaison. Would you like to take the lead on the motion?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question. for
Sure.
you first. I'm not familiar with the rest of the board's legal knowledge. And I know Mr. Matthews was also an attorney for years. So is there anyone else on their board? If,
Not so much in, that specializes in that. The board does have their attorney.
Right.
And so they lean on him for legal guidance. Mr. Matthew does ask legal questions once in a while, but that hasn't necessarily been his role, I guess you'd say.
okay, good to know. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Candy Pendleton is recommended to be trustee on the Memorial Hospital Board, subject to the Board of County Commissioners appointment at the June Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith to nominate Cammie Pendleton to the appointment effective June 1, or effective in June.
Oh, don't mess it up.
No,
now.
don't mess it up.
Don't mess me up now, Doc.
All right, let me back up. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith. Is there a second?
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. You're exactly right. Don't mess
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Lloyd.
You forgot to ask for discussion, but that's okay. I was just going to say, that'd have been a great point. I wanted to just thank Richard Matthew. I know he's not done till July 1st, but he's been an integral part of that board and in this community, and he'll be lost. He'll be missed as he moves away, and I want to thank him for his service.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. When we get to Communities Protecting the Green, he's also serves on there and has been an unbelievable asset for that board, as well as for working at times within most water situations. So thank you, Mr. Lloyd. From all of us to Mr. Matthew, thank you for your services, and you will be missed. Okay, up next is under tab M, also board appointment is museum board. So with that, we have, due to the resignation of Tim Savage, this will fill an unexpired term through 7/1 of 23. No eligible reappointment. We have a new applicant, G. Bud Allen. I believe with that, Commissioner Shanefield, you are the liaison. Your thoughts?
Yes, prior to this even coming to Sally, the museum board did recommend Mr. Allen, and they are very excited to have him be a part of the board. And he's been very actively involved in the museum in the past, and they want to continue to keep him involved.
Very good. So any other comments, commissioners? Commissioner Shanefield, your motion.
I would like to make a motion to appoint G. Bud Allen to that 3-year term for the museum board.
We have a motion to appoint G. Bud Allen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lloyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With that, Commissioners, request up next is tab N, request approval to staff seasonal position in the county assessor's office. And I believe with us presently is Mr. Davis, our county assessor. So Mr. Davis, welcome. Come up to the podium if you desire. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. We were going to put a spread, I sent you guys an email this morning with a
Yep.
spreadsheet, and I was going to work with that, but we weren't. I told Cindy we were going to give it a shot, but she made a face. We'll see how it works.
Well, face.
She did. She's kind of like, I don't know.
Living on the edge.
Is that the field crew schedule?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It was kind of last minute. I was going to do this via Zoom, but then Devin apologized for not being here. Gene was here in person. Sheriff apologized. And I thought, well, I'm just down the hall. I better just come down.
PowerPoint in hand.
Yeah. I did send you a letter with the reason for the request to restaff the position, and I'll kind of hit the highlights, at least from my my perspective. The assessor's office at one point had 10 full-time employees, and we have lost 2 full-time employees to the voluntary separation programs that have been offered, and we have not replaced those. The most recent one was in the fall of last year. It was at a great time because at that point, that's when I pulled my field crew in anyway. So we had the bodies to actually do the data entry, do to do all of the work we needed in the office. So the timing was great this request, this request is coming at probably the best time, and her retirement actually came at the best time as well. Again, just to hit some of the highlights, we physically have to inspect all improved property in the county once every 6 years, and that's per DOR rules. And we have been behind schedule a little bit, and when this comes up, I'll show you why. But Sweetwater County is very unique. It covers 10,491 square miles. It's the 8th largest county in the nation, and we're larger than 7 states. We inspect property in Rock Springs, Green River, Superior, Granger, Wamsutter, Bear Oil, Reliance, Farson, and McKinnon. One of the other requirements that we have per DOR rules is our education requirements. And any people in my staff who are making value judgments have to be certified. And certification is attained by taking 4 in-person courses. They're a week long, and they have to pass the classes. And then they have 1 online course that they have to take as well. So, I mean, it's something that does take time. It takes 1.5 years, 2 years for that to be attained, just simply because of the schools when the classes are offered. So there is some issues with timing on that. Currently, we manage the Veterans Exemption Program, and we've sent out 1,144 letters last fall. We are in the process, we're still processing the 928 agricultural accounts that we have done. We have 584 oil and gas accounts that we do very detailed work on. Our 30-day protest period we're currently in it. I probably have 8 or 10 messages currently to call people back. And that protest period is very time consuming, and it is very detail oriented. We have to usually go out and re-inspect, reappraise. And then if we do end up going to appeal, we have to compile all the exhibits as well. So it is a big process. I feel like we've done pretty well. We have had some opportunities to utilize some very cool technology. So we have aerial photography now that we can use that actually has a tool on it that shows a before picture and shows an after picture and actually tells you if there's an improvement difference. So if there's a new structure that's there or if there's a structure that's been removed. And we're actually using that now. And just to give you an idea of how efficient this is, with what we've done recently, we've actually added $1.3 million in market value, which equates to $125,000 in assessed value, and will equate to $9,000 worth of property taxes that we did not have before. And it was simply due to this tool that we've now got. We're also really trying to push the e-notice program that we were offered with our printer. That's something that has been fantastic. Hundreds of accounts are no longer have to be printed. Postage has to be sent, nothing. It is something that we are very, very, we push very much, just simply because it is so efficient for people. Talked to a gentleman yesterday that had lost, his assessment had gotten lost in the mail. So we have to reprint one from the PDF file. We get to the printer, we email it out. It works, but if I can get him to sign up for the email, which is what I did yesterday, the process is saved. So that's kind of the stuff that we're using. Because of the efficiencies and the timing, the person we lost last fall, we've had to make some changes. You know, one of the things is using the aerial photography. One of the things is cross-training everybody. The field crew is data entry crew when the personal property renditions come back in. We're no longer taking breaks in our office. We are really trying hard to get online education so we don't have to pay for travel, lodging, all those kinds of things. So we're very, very diligent in trying to be as efficient as possible. Anytime that you look at assessors and workload, the best determination is parcel count. And what I've done is looked at Campbell and Fremont County. They're very similar in parcel counts to us. We currently have 8 full-time employees, including me. And Fremont County has 10 full-time employees and one part-time employee. and Campbell County has 11 full-time employees. So we are, based on these numbers, in my opinion, we are understaffed. I had initially intended to come in here and pound on my chest and say I needed a full-time person. And after talking to Commissioner Lloyd, I rethought that. I really looked at what we actually needed and what we could get away with. And I really believe having a part-time seasonal person to work in the field will allow one of those field crew people to come in the office and actually be available for data entry, answering the phones, working with the public while we're there. I think we can make it work. I'm willing to try. I'm hoping it's something that you guys will consider. Back to my spreadsheet here. This is very simple assessor math. Okay, so the assessor math is, so how many days do you have to inspect? Now, and let me go back to the problem we had before. Okay, you can see here down on the bottom, our 6-year review cycle, we're in the red by 4,900 parcels. Okay, Department of Revenue has been made aware of this. There's no concerns. They know we've made corrections and we're on the path to get this taken care of. So in 2015, 16, and 17, our office experienced 5 knee surgeries. 4 of those were full knee replacements. We had 2 children born. We had 1 child, not one of the ones that was born, but a different child had to have 3 very significant surgeries. So even with moving staff around the way we did, we were still very, very far behind. And you can see here, we were, and what I've done is calculated, we should do 3,955 parcels a year. If we do that, we'll be on our, and what I've done here is a 5-year schedule. I want a little leeway, like the agricultural project we did just recently took a lot of time away. So it was one of those things where I don't want to be chasing it. I want to be ahead of it. So when you do the assessor math, you look at your days to inspect, and we had 208. And what this is 4 days a week with 2 field crews out, and then in on Fridays to enter the data they've collected for that week. So it's not just in the field and then that's all they do. That stuff has to be actually loaded into the software. So then you have to subtract out vacation days, education days, sick time, the holidays. And then in the wintertime, I do not send my people out. I just don't. I've heard too many stories from other assessors, slick sidewalks, slick roads, accidents in vehicles. I'm just not doing it. And the reason that actually works in our benefit, just simply because those days they're not out in the field in the winter, they're actually in the office doing the data entry. So Commissioner Lloyd had mentioned earlier, cross-training people with one of the other replacements. We're doing that now. It's not like they're not in the field and they sit in the office and do nothing. They are actually answering phones, they're processing data, they're actually working in the office at that point. When I presented this to Gary, he had actually replied back to me and had some suggestions. And some of the suggestions were unreasonable. And some of them we're already doing. He had wanted us to, he wanted me to show you the numbers, the assessor math on your parcel count. So, and we've done that. He also wanted to have field personnel working individually. And I don't care for that right now. And the reason I say that is simply a safety issue. People going to the door, the government right now sometimes is considered the enemy by people, and I'm not sending people out to knock on doors in that situation alone. They're actually more efficient when they reval the property as a pair. They have a laser measuring tool that they can actually use, but they need somebody at the other end for the laser to bounce off of. It works much more efficiently. I would argue they almost get done faster with 2 people than they would by themselves. Gary had suggested as well to do appraisals throughout the winter, and we are doing that now. They're different appraisals. When we do new construction, we actually go out and have to look inside the construction before it's completed. So we get an idea of what kind of HVAC system they have, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, those kinds of things that are relevant to the value. Once the house is closed up, it's much harder to get in and actually do that review. So we're actually doing that. There are certain revals we can do from the car, basically. Our mobile home parks, we go through and make sure the mobile homes that we had there last year are still the ones there this year, those kinds of things. And then we also look at building permits. The other thing we're doing currently is with the Eagle View software that I spoke of earlier, we have to actually go out and confirm those either those properties that have a new structure or a structure that's been removed, some of that needs field inspected to make sure that it is correct. So we've actually gone out, and that's part of our reval process in the winter as well. So most of those things are being done already. And then Gary had also suggested that we really, almost work overtime for our outlying areas. So, and again, something we're already doing. We've got plans this summer. Bear oil's on the list this summer, so I'll actually have all 4 people out in the vehicles. They'll go out and they'll get bear oil done in one day. It'll be one long day, but they'll get it done in one day, and they'll take, so they don't have to pay overtime. They'll take the rest of the week off when they get that process done and they get to their 40 hours. So a lot of the suggestions have already been implemented. And like I said, the one person at a time, like I said, I'm not doing it. It's not, they're my people and their safety is my number one priority. So I am not willing to do that. So the cost of this from the HR department was going to be about $14,000, but that was for 6 months. Depending on the applicants, that time may be shortened. It could be, if it's a teacher that's off for the summer, the window's going to be a little tighter. If it's a retired person, then yeah, it may be the full $14,000. But if it's something, we may have to shorten it one end or the other, but it is something that's only part-time. There are no benefits paid. I think it's a good option. I think it's something that makes sense. And I think it's a good first step for this. So I'm asking for your approval for this part-time person this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I see Mr. McLean is here. Mr. McLean, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think so. Dave presented the cost that we provided. We had some discussions for some time on some other issues related to this. Some of this is just an approach to management, how you do these things. I think the overall goal that I was trying to get at, and as the board will recall, when we had a discussion about the jail, it gets to be very difficult in determining need, right? What's an actual need? So what I was just trying to encourage overall is that as we did in the jail, you have a certain number of posts, 365 days a year. There's kind of a mathematical framework where you might say it's a little more, or a little less, but you're talking 4.3 FTEs versus 4 FTEs, for example. And so I think in this case, what I was trying to do and what we're trying to discuss a little bit, and Dave touched on this in the early part of his remarks, is that, if you take a look at the number of properties that have to be assessed and divide it, what's a reasonable level of productivity that a person can achieve per day times a person, how much can be done in that time frame. I think the closer we can get to that analysis, I think number one, it helps you guys and Dave get on the same page in terms of staffing needs. We were talking about, he and I were talking about it in terms of setting reasonable expectations for staffing going out to make sure we were getting, the productivity that was expected from the field crews at that time, but it accomplishes both goals. And, obviously you don't have the exact numbers. You got some of those today, but I think that was the real approach, trying to figure out what staffing levels are needed to accomplish the volumes that are needed and the timeframes that are required. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's about the only thing that I have.
Yeah. And back to the spreadsheet, you can see in 2020, we were supposed to do 3,955 parcels in 2020, and we did 4,961. So with the 2 field crews doing what we've done, we're really gaining on this. Now we've got ground to make up, so this will continue for the next couple of years. Once we get to that point where we're actually caught up and we're ahead of it rather than chasing it, then we'll have some time to maybe look at this and come up with some even more creative solutions. If the Eagle View stuff gets done, currently the Eagle View is the area photography that we use, and it has a tool called Change Finder. So we have a previous aerial photography picture, and then we have a current aerial photography picture. But because the old picture was so poor, the Change Finder is really kind of clunky. It's still a great tool, don't get me wrong. But if the legislature will fund that second flyover where it's an Eagle View flight and then another Eagle View flight, that's a game changer. That's something where, we can do a significant amount of the work for as a desk review rather than actually out in the field. Now we're still going to have to inspect new construction. We're still going to have to go out and confirm some of these changes from one year to the next. But if that project gets funded at the state level, because it was done by the state and given to all of the county assessors, if that happens, then our world gets a little different, and we're going to have to sit down and look at what we actually need at that point. And at that point, then maybe the next person that retires doesn't need to be replaced. But again, it's something the legislature would have to fund. And at this point, funding from the legislature is pretty slim. So, but we're hopeful. We're very, very hopeful.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you, Mr. Commissioners, questions for either Mr. Davis or Mr. McLean?
You have a question for Mr. Davis, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Commissioner Lloyd.
I'd like to have you once again repeat who gave you this really good idea.
I can't remember his name.
Okay, but outside of that, sorry. I actually want to thank Dave for looking through Gary's options, looking and having discussions about it, but then also looking outside the box to a solution. And when Dave and I first talked about this 3 months ago, I thought there was no way when I threw this idea out that he would even think about it. And 4 days later, when he came to me and said, "I think we're going to roll with it," I had a slight heart attack and took an extra pill that day. But I do really appreciate him looking outside the box on a serious note, because as we go through changes, sometimes I always say we have sacred cows, and what a sacred cow is something that we don't change. And why don't we change it? Well, it's because how we've always done it. And sometimes you got to be willing to change some of those sacred cows and look at things differently. And I think this is a great example. And as we start looking at finding more efficiencies, decreasing a $13 million deficit in our upcoming budget, this is the kind of problem solving that if we can get universal, that we can get to a better point in our budget and get our revenues matched to our expenditures. So Dave, outside of who gave you the idea, I'm very glad that you're looking outside the box. And when we created that sheet of, hey, we're looking for a full-time position, what other options do we have? This is one of those concepts out there. So I just want to thank you for looking outside of that box and being willing to look at alternatives. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Commissioners, other comments? Looking down the table, don't want to miss anybody. Okay, no more questions, comments, commissioners. I guess at this point in time, what's your pleasure regarding this seasonal staffing position?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd,
I'd like to make a motion that we request the approval to staff a seasonal position in the county assessor's office as presented by Assessor Davis.
we have a motion to approve as presented for seasonal. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion?
When would this begin?
We're actually going to shoot for first part of May.
Okay.
And depending on the person, and again, we have to be kind of flexible on this. If it is a teacher, for instance, and that's just something that was an option that came to mind recently, that would shorten that window. We just have to see who applies. I mean, we're going to pick the best person that fits the position, but when we budgeted for it, we picked May 1st through the end of October, which is traditionally the best time for us to get out in the field. Now, again, if weather permits, we go out longer. But that's kind of the ballpark for what we were looking for. So this actual number may be less than this. That would be the full 6 months of employment.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion?
One other comment, Mr. Chairman, and that would be Dave's actually, and I've also, Assessor Davis and I've also talked in there, since we have had a more mild winter, haven't you, Dave, taken advantage of getting some people out to look at properties during the winter on the nice days?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, we have to be careful with this. Like I sent them out yesterday. Well, yesterday was the first day the assessments hit the mail. Maybe I should only sent one crew because the phones were ringing off the hook all day long. But we did send them out. We sent both out yesterday. We had them in today because we were a little bit shorthanded again, and then we'll have them out tomorrow. But yeah, we are managing it the best we can.
Thank you.
Anything else? You did throw out the fact that depending on the person, you could do it for 3 months.
Correct. You looking for work?
No, I'm just thinking 3 months would be half of 14,000.
That is correct.
You know, if we can, it's a thought to
Absolutely.
amend it from seasonal to maximum 3 months.
You hire 2 people for 3 months instead of 1 for 6.
True. Yeah. And we're going to kick around options. At this point, I think the one is the better way to go with the current staff that I have. I have 2 seasoned field crews or 2 seasoned field appraisers, and then I have 2 relatively new people. And what I'm going to do is rotate the relatively new people in and out. But the part-time seasonal is going to go with one of those 2 experienced field appraisers all 4 days of the week. So we're managing that. And, we may find out that there's a better way to do it. And, nothing we do is set in stone. So
Are they going to get benefits?
no, they are not. They are, no, they are, according to the cost sheet, we pay FICA and workers' comp, but there is no retirement, health insurance, long-term disability, nothing. It is just, and the pay scale was $15.59 an hour. So, and we'll make sure we do the hours to make sure they don't get anywhere near the full-time status. So,
Yeah, and that's also, Gary, I think that might be reflected of no more than 51% of, or no more. What is that?
You mean for Affordable Care Act?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they would have a requirement to cover them as a full-time employee if we extended beyond that. And so that's something we have to talk about if they stayed on, but right now, there's no issue.
no issues. Okay.
The intent is to do it for a season.
Okay, very good. Okay, any other discussion, commissioners? With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, seasonal.
thank you very much.
Thanks. With that, commissioners, that concludes our regular business for today. Our next is executive session as needed. I know we have real estate, then we have personnel, and then I'm gonna put on contracts as well. I do want to let the public know if there's any action that needs to be taken, we will take it after the executive session ends. So at this point in time, I'll entertain a motion that we go into executive session first for real estate, then personnel, and then contracts.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Shanefield, moving to executive session. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. All those in favor, you signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll go into